Let's make some easy magnetic bookmarks. Hi, and welcome to my craft room. My name is Kelsey. I also call myself Dinosaur Mama, and today we are making magnetic bookmarks with the print and cut method on our Cricuts. This is a super simple Cricut craft. It's great for beginners. It is a super cute gift. It's also great to add to your store because it's super quick to make and you can make a lot of different versions of it. If you're looking for free SVG files and projects, please don't forget to check out the link below to my blog where I upload new projects, free SVG files, and all things crafting on there. Let's jump into Cricut Design Space so we can design our magnetic bookmark. For my floral image, I did grab this off of Creative Fabrica, so I will start by saying that, and I will link a free trial to Creative Fabrica down below if you've been interested in trying them out. I absolutely love their website. So I'm grabbing a text box. You can obviously add whatever you want here. I'm just going to read more books, and I ended up cutting this part out, the writing part out, with vinyl. Like regular adhesive vinyl. And I actually used Cricut brand, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but I made sure that it was cut through and it actually weeded pretty good. So just grab a text box. You can write whatever you want. Your main thing here is that you want both sides of your bookmark to match up like the same. So they have to go back to back and be able to line up so that when they are clipped together and not on a book, that it's just like one solid piece. Is that a must? Really, it's not, because if it's on a book, you're not even going to see the other side. So it's totally up to you and what you want to do there. I made mine the same on both sides. You can definitely customize one side or, leave it blank on the other side. It doesn't really matter. But I wanted to make mine identical on both sides. So I'm just grabbing a font that I like. Again, I probably downloaded this one off of DaFont, but there are a lot of fonts on Creative Fabrica as well, so you can grab one from there with your free trial. And I am going to just align these, and I'm breaking them down by row. And I played around with how I wanted them positioned, and make sure that when you're doing anything with like a scripty font that you are welding everything, because if you don't weld your fonts when you're using vinyl, then it is not going to cut in one word. It's going to cut out every single letter. So I have my three layers here, my read, my more, and my books, and I'm just moving them around where I think it looks kind of nice. I ended up kind of going with the way it is right now, but not really. I initially wanted to add an offset to each one, but that's not how I played it out. So let me jump ahead to my final decision. So here is the way my final wording looked. I'm just resizing it a little bit, and I wanted it to kind of cut into those flowers. So here I am welding it, making sure it's one piece. And now I'm going to do a slight offset, so nothing crazy. It's actually really small. You can see 0.04. And I'm just going to position this by changing it to white, the offset, so I can kind of see how it would look in my flowers. And then I'm moving around my flowers to where I want it on my bookmark. So this is totally going to be up to you and how you, position your words. It depends on the image you want to use. You might not even write any words and only use images. And so once I was happy with it, I changed some colors around. And now I'm going to grab the shape that I need for the bookmark. My original plan was to try to do an offset with the flowers. However, it was taking so long to load. I don't understand why Cricut Design Space does that, but it started glitching and it just wasn't worth it for me to wait 30 minutes while it figured out how to do an offset. So I was like, okay, I'll just go with a rectangle. That'll be fine too. So I am just resizing this to fit around the flowers. And then I'm going to kind of center it to it. Now remember, this is a print and cut, so we're going to need to flatten everything. If you want to make a print and cut image, you flatten. And so I'm using white as my background. I don't want it to print any color for the background. I wanted it to be white. I, of course, could use a colored paper if I want, but I just didn't want to. And so now I am going to grab my offset and that print and cut, the flower. I'm grouping those. And now I'm going to grab the rectangle we just made. I'm going to center it. And then I am going to flatten those. So I'm not flattening that read more books because I want to cut that out with vinyl. So if I flattened it into it, we'd have a problem because then it would be a part of the print image. And I wanted to do that in like a gold vinyl. So here is our final print and cut image, but now we need to duplicate it, right? Because we need to have two parts to our magnetic bookmark. So the first thing I'm grabbing is another rectangle, and I am going to unlock this so that I can make the bridge in between the two parts. I'll leave up to you on how long you want to make it. Also, keep in mind which rectangle you're using. Like mine has rounded edges, and so I made sure that those were kind of down, and I should have gone with a more square, like sharp edge on that. And so I'm aligning this to the center of the flattened image. Don't worry about if the read more books, goes off, but you're going to duplicate both the read more books and the flattened image. And now you're going to rotate it all the way around. So 180 degrees. So it's flipped over. So that way when it flips on top of each other, they're both facing the same direction. And so now I have all this. I'm going to align it centered. And again, don't really worry about the wording, the read more books, because that's obviously going to be cut, differently. It's going to be cut separately on a separate mat. And so I am just pulling those off so you can see it. And now I am going to weld that rectangle that we had on to our two sides of our bookmarks. You also want to keep in mind when you're making these, if you're using a print and cut, that they have to stay within the print and cut borders, which I believe is like 9.6 something. So you can't make it any bigger than that. It has to be that size. So here I am just fooling around, but I'm changing the sizing of it probably to about 1 inch wide. So the sizing I'll leave up to you. I wouldn't go too skinny with it, obviously, because you don't want it to tear or rip. And a lot of people that I've seen making these do laminate theirs. I do have a laminator. I just chose not to laminate mine. You definitely can laminate, though. That will protect it. If you're selling it, I highly recommend that you laminate them. So I'm just making sure all of my spacing is good, that everything is in the right spot, and then I'm going to weld all 3 of those. Make sure when you go to weld before you change the color, because if you weld it together, it might change the color. But if it's a print and cut, it also might not. So, yeah. But if you flatten, it will definitely not change the color. So I think I flattened and didn't weld. I had to think about that for a second. So make sure I'm flattening these. I'm not welding them. So make sure when you flatten them and not weld them, you change the color of your rectangle that is in the middle of them. Now I'm just grabbing a score line. This will obviously only work if you have the scoring tool or the scoring wheel. But I'm grabbing the score line, I'm rotating it 90 degrees, and then I'm literally going to put it right into the center of both of those. That way when we go to fold it, it'll fold really beautifully. So this is a really super simple way to do that on there. You can obviously just fold by hand if you don't have the scoring tool. It's just like an extra guide. But now everything is done. Everything is flattened. You really, if you're using the vinyl, and then you only have 2 mats to cut. You have your bookmark and you have your vinyl piece. But if you're not doing the vinyl, you'll only have one thing to cut out, fold, and add the magnets, which I'm going to show you the assembly because it's pretty simple, but this is your entire project. And so now we can send it over to our machine. I'm going to print on my Epson printer in the highest quality. And then I am going to, like I said, use the vinyl. It's like a gold metallic. It has like swirls on it, vinyl. So let's jump over to our assembly. So I'm starting out by just weeding, and I totally cut into my vinyl, but I did make it work, so it was fine. But see, everybody makes mistakes, so don't ever feel bad if you make a mistake. But I'm just weeding my vinyl here. I double checked to make sure it cut through really well, because I'm always weary with Cricut vinyl. I feel like it can be so finicky when you go to cut it. And so I'm not going to show you all my weeding, but the first thing I did was weed all my vinyl. After that, I transferred over my vinyl to my bookmark. And just be careful when you're using transfer tape on paper, because you don't want to rip your paper or take any of that image off. So just make sure it's not like super, super sticky transfer tape. So I'm going to do that with all 4 sides. I said 4 because I'm making 2 bookmarks. So I don't think that a bookmark has 4 sides. I had these magnetic adhesive sheets that I got on Amazon. So I'm just going to cut these by hand. You can definitely make your Cricut cut them if you want them like super, super, precise if you want them like cut out in squares or rectangles. However, I am just going to use my scissors to cut them out into a rectangle. So I cut one little slice off and then fold it in half. So it is a pretty big like section of the magnet. But what's nice about these sheets is one, they stick to either side. So you see it's like two pieces stuck together. And then the other side is adhesive. So you just pull off this little backing and you can stick it right onto the bookmark. So you don't need any hot glue or any extra glue for these. Obviously, if your glue doesn't have adhesive on the back, then you have to glue them on. But I'm going to center it as much as I can on to my rectangle. And then all you're going to do is peel off that adhesive on the second part, keep it adhered, keep it magnetized. Yeah, keep it magnetized to the other side, peel off your adhesive, and then fold over your bookmark. Make sure it's nice and even, which it should be because we use that scoring tool and centered everything. And now we are just going to adhere it down. So now the adhesive is on both sides and we have made our magnetic bookmark. This is it. It takes like 2 steps. With the print and cut, it's really easy. So again, I'm just cutting off a rectangle and then I'm gonna make my second bookmark. I made this one a little bit smaller, but you can keep it long, whatever floats your boat, however much magnet you need. And here is our final magnetic bookmarks. I hope you enjoyed making these. They're super, super simple and super cute, and they make great gifts. Thank you again for joining me as we made magnetic bookmarks with our Cricut. If you learned something today, please don't forget to give this a big thumbs up. It helps me so much. Share it with one of your crafty friends who you think might want to make it. And please don't forget to subscribe. That way I can continue to bring you new projects every week and we can discuss things going on in the craft world. Stay crafty.